So, let's begin with this interesting panel discussion on re-imaging entrepreneurship in post-COVID era, challenges and opportunities, reboot, reform, research. On behalf of the IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all our participants, dignitaries, and our highly esteemed panelists who for sparing their valuable time for this interaction with the members of the IMC. As we begin, may I request Mr. Rajiv Poddar, President, IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to present the welcome address. Over to you, Mr. Poddar.
Thank you, Selvi. Good evening and a very warm welcome to the first session of the series Reimaging Entrepreneurship in Post-COVID Era, Opportunities and Challenges, organized by the IMC Startup and Innovation Committee, along with Million Minds and Center of Knowledge Sovereignty. We will be having 6 sessions beginning today and then followed by every Friday. Today's session is going to discuss emerging opportunities in defense and space sector for Indian entrepreneurs and startups. I welcome our very eminent experts in today's panels. Thank you so much for sparing your time to share your expertise with our participants. As part of the economic stimulus package, the Government of India announced in May 2020 the structural reforms in key sectors of the economy to revive the stalling Indian economy due to lockdown to fight COVID outbreak. These reforms were designed to provide an impetus to these sectors, which are in the new areas of growth, unleashing new investment opportunities, leading to more production, and in turn generating more jobs. These sectors included defense production and space. They were opened up for private sector participation. Reforms were aimed at indigenization of imported spares so that defense equipment can be manufactured here. FDI limits in defense manufacturing under the automatic route was proposed to be raised from 49% to 74%. In space activities, the reforms were made to provide a level playing field for private companies in satellites, launches, and space-based technology. That, along with assurance of predictable policy and regulatory environment, will provide the private sector a role in India's space program, including in satellite launches and space-based services. We believe that these were game-changing reforms, a paradigm shift in outlook of the government and opening up seas of opportunities in areas of defense and space and many other private enterprises. Post-COVID.
Okay. Please continue.
Yeah. Post-COVID, the businesses and industries are going to fundamentally change. Global supply chain is going to witness realignment to diversifying sourcing. New opportunities will come up in the next frontier technologies like quantum computing, robotics, IoT, AI, etc. The data sovereignty will assume greater significance. It is in this backdrop, IMC thought of initiating a series of reimaging entrepreneurship in post-COVID era to provide understanding of opportunities arising out of the government intervention through reforms and new normals of doing business to build entrepreneurships and startup. Before I conclude, let me talk briefly about IMC. Established in 1907 and having its headquarters in Mumbai, the IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry is the apex chamber of commerce and trade and industry in the Western region, with a membership base of 2,500 members and 170 trade associations affiliated to it. Together, it represents and advocates interest of over 4 lakh businesses and industry establishments from diversified sectors of the industry. We have 26 industry-specific committees of experts through which IMC provides policy inputs and recommendations at various levels to the government and organizes activities where eminent business and government leaders engage with its members on a wide range of issues to create an environment for sustainable economic development. This year, I have chosen Reboot, Reform and Research as the theme of the year, which is a much needed at the time for the Indian economy. The Chamber's activity during the year will be largely around this theme. Thank you so much, and I welcome you all again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poddar. Without much ado, let's begin with the first panel discussion in this series on emerging opportunities through government policy changes and initiatives, defense and space, Make in India. To initiate the discussion, I invite the moderator, Mr. Vineet Goenka, who's Secretary, Center of Knowledge Sovereignty. His expertise is in various fields, in particular information technology, transportation and infrastructure and agriculture. He is a member of the Governing Council of CRIS, that is Center for Railway Information System, an organization under the Ministry of Railways, Government of India. Member of the IT Task Force in the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways and Shipping, Government of India. He has authored the book Data Sovereignty, The Pursuit of Supremacy, which was also launched through IMC. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I hand it over to you. Over to you, Mr. Goenka. Thank you.
Namaste, everybody. And let me first start with thanking Indian Merchant Chamber IMC to hold such a vibrant discussion, especially to President-elect Rajiv Poddarji, Ajit ji, Chitra ji, and their team, Sanjay ji, everybody. I may miss some names from IMC Vipul Banner. You'll have to forgive me for that. Million Minds, Sogataji, you have put in this program, and this is a fantastic program, and I know the pain which you have taken to put in this program in place. And especially today when Mumbai is underwater, here you could do this program, and I would congratulate you for that particular plan. COVID-19 has indeed refined business models. The subject is very relevant today, and what we saw is a disruption of business processes, social life, personal life, or the governance in not only in India but across the world because of this COVID, which we saw a forced lockdown and how the businesses were challenged. So before I start, let me thank all the eminent panelists which was here today, and I have a privilege to introduce each of them. I would like to start with Air Vice Marshal retired, Pranay Sinha ji, VSM, a very humble person. He's MTech in Leisure Technology from IIT Kanpur. He qualified on the Lean Engineering Concepts from IIT Kharagpur. As an ex-officer of, he was commandant of the Software Technology wing of Air Force. He in fact started the software division which is called as SDI there. He is currently an advisor with the CRIL, which is Bharat Electronics Limited in Bangalore. A soldier with multiple hats and understands tomorrow with the best in the defense. I'm also fortunate to introduce Sanjay Nikakanti ji, who is founder of Dhruv Space Bangalore. Sanjay ji was involved in building the first student nano satellite project and also India's first private satellite, part of the team that built the Velox series of satellites from Singapore. Seasoned entrepreneur in the space technology, expertise in the small SATCOM technologies, sensors and connected devices. Probably, you know, the people today would like to relate it with you, Sanjay ji, because everybody gets excited when the words space and satellite comes in, which has become a part of this. I'm also very delighted to introduce a personal friend, a very close friend, Dr. Unnat Pandit. Unnat ji, as known by everybody and including me, where we avoid to call him Dr. Unnat, but rather call him Unnat ji, is a fervent nationalist. He's a professor of IP innovations and entrepreneurship. He's currently the dean there in JNU, establishing the practices there. And before that, he was program director with Atal Innovation Mission. And who other than him would be the appropriate person to understand what is the part of, you know, research or the reform or innovation which we are going to talk today. So thank you for coming. He was also an OSD to the Minister of Commerce and Industry, who happens to be today's finance minister for some time. Dr. Bidushi Bhattacharya ji, ex-NASA scientist and astropreneur, holds a PhD degree, MS in space physics from UCLA, CEO of Astro Hub, a Singapore and a US-based space tech startup. Served on the advisory of Global Entrepreneurship Network, Space, and he also is a member of the TIE, that is TIE, so-called that Tech Indus Entrepreneurs Southern California. too much of technology probably. So these all will be people will be talking about. They will talk and share with the experiences. You can all ask questions. You can put your questions in the chat box which is there. I would request Miss Selvi to formulate them and pass it on to me on the group which has been formed right now. Each of the speaker would have 7 minutes to have their opening remark. Post the opening remark, we would like to take some questions, and maybe at the end we would request President of IMC to thank everybody formally and sum up the discussion. We would like to make sure that this is closed by 5:20 so that we do it before time. This is very important in a picture post-COVID. Reason is very simple. COVID has shown us something, that we'll have to change the processes, the business thinking, governance, corporate processes have to be changed, and there will be new innovations. Also, the opportunities which have come post-COVID that can be discussed here. Without wasting much of time in coming in between you and the speakers, can I request Honorable Air Vice Marshal Pranay Sinha ji, VSM, to start the session. Sir, what I will be doing is so that the speakers, when they speak many times, they may not remember that. So exactly at 5 minutes, I would remind them of 5 minutes so that they can then conclude in 2 minutes once the 5-minute reminder is done by me, and then we can go to the next speaker. So, sir, over to you. Please start.
Thanks, Vineet ji, and thanks IMC Chamber of Commerce of Industry for giving this platform, and a very apt subject. And seeing the current situation, this becomes more relevant. The recent belligerence of Beijing has jolted us from complacency, since we were under belief that with the vibrant economic relationship going between China and India, confrontation is unlikely. And therefore, this has given us a jolt. Also, not that we were not aware of this whole scenario. The armed forces per se were very much aware that two-front war is a probability, which now has become a more reality. In fact, we are facing a stark reality. But armed forces were very much aware. Air Force wanted 42 squadron strength, or Army wanted their light tank and strategic roads at the borders, and submarine was wanted by the Navy. All this was in a wish list. And suddenly, the situation has arisen. Rapid modernization is the need of the day. So what is stopping us? Let's see the whole scenario. First, what I will do is, I will try to give the complexity of the whole process of how to get the acquisition, modern acquisition for the defense forces. We'll try to understand the complexity and then probably some solution. And of course, in the end, we will also, I'd like to tell you about the lot of initiative which has been taken by the government. Not that government is silent. A lot of initiative has been taken, but we'll go one by one, because first, complexity. And what was stopping us from this equation to modernize the armed forces? First was the paucity of fund. You all understand? And then the slow moving defense acquisition. The whole process was very, very slow moving. Slow rate of production by the defense public sector units. There are 9 public sector units, HAL, BEL and BML and all, and plus ordnance factories. There are 39 plus 2 ordnance factories. Uninspiring research and development by the DRDO, and absence of cutting in technology in-house in the country. These are the impeding factors, please understand. And all this, what I have quoted, is again, I am quoting ex-DefSec Mr. G. Mohan Kumar recent article in Economic Times on 23rd July. So he is saying, so please understand, it is coming from the direct horse's mouth. These all impeding factors. Now let us see that how we, and first let us understand who all are the players in this whole game. The players are the service headquarters, that is Air Force, Navy, Army, as a user. Then there is a IDS, the Integrated Defense Service Headquarters. Then comes the MOD. And this becomes the user because MOD procures, Government of India procures on the behalf of Service Headquarters. All the acquisition is done by them. Then there is another chain, which is the DRDO as a research agency. There is a NAL also under CSIR. That is another department under the scientific, under the Ministry of Industry and Sciences. Then there are, these are the R&D agencies. Then DPSU and of course OFB, I said. Then now there are private sectors are coming. They are there as a strategic partners that we will discuss soon. And then there are MSMEs, which government is promoting them. This is a very important thing. Plus there are agencies like SEMILAC, that is airworthiness competence certification is being given by them only. Then there is a DGQA quality control. Then there is STQC for giving other quality control for the software and other electronics item. Then there is Finance Ministry, IFA, Audit Agency, Commerce Ministry, BT. Lot of players are there. But natural, the confusion is going to be galore. So this is the confusion. How to remove this? So the first 5 things which I will be just telling is the main. Then we will see in the end the government initiative. The first 5 things for making Atmanirbhar Bharat is, or to make the Make in India dream comes true, is address 4 M's. 4 M's. The first is all the stakeholders have to work in the mission mode. Please understand, mission mode, which is lacking. And this, right from Prime Minister to everybody has said this. We have to work on mission mode on war footing. Then second is remove mistrust. Now this whole game is full of mistrust. No agency is having trust on each other. This is the very, very, the paradox statements. But I'll just give you an example. LCA, the Light Combat Aircraft Tejas, started in 1984 by ADA. Another DRDO agency, agency was made for this. And after 35 years, we have been given the IOC clearance. It is only the initial operation, not the final operation clearance is also given. And the actual, as per the staff quality requirement, which will be coming, it will be coming in 2032. So another 10 years, we have to be with non-standardized LCA version. This is the reality. And who all are the, why this thing? There are 3 streams of chains which were mistrusting each other. First was the fighter pilots of the Indian Air Force. They had their own perception, their own demand, their own requirements. Then second is the bureaucrats of the MOD. And third, the chain was technocrats of ADA and HAL. Now let me bit amplify because I'm making a statement, and this statement, again, this statement is made by, on record, by the chief test pilot and my good friend Eric Muthanna, who retired from the Air Force and had joined HAL. He's making, who was looking after this LCA project. And this is on record and the article is there. So I'm quoting him. And we had done together Su-30 course, and we had inducted Su-30 from me from the maintenance side and he from the test pilot side. His statement does make sense because see what is happening is the requirements are given, the qualitative things are given to the ADA and ADA start designing. Now ADA as a scientist, as a group, is not trusting the Air Force in totality, the requirement. They are only worried about how the product becomes airborne as early as possible without taking inputs of the maintenance and other test pilots' needs. That is one part. Please understand. The bureaucrats of MOD are playing the judgmental role. Sometimes they listen to this, sometimes listen to this. They are not, actually they are not giving the direct decision where it requires. This is very, very important.
So we have done
And
with the 5 minutes.
okay,
We have 2 more
okay,
minutes.
okay, okay, okay. The another, this is 1M, which is mistrust needs to be removed. Please understand. The second thing is the very important is the management issue. This is a very big issue all across the stakeholders. That is whether it is the promotion policies across, whether it is the real asset management or the resource management. And the last thing is the motivation factor. A leadership is required. Let's quickly go to the solution. That solution is there. Like you said that reboot, reform, research. I am saying research, restructure, resize and reorganize the DPSU, the DRDOs, and with more autonomy. We have to restructure them. They are very, very large bodies. They have to be cut into sizes. And again, there is a very good expert committee report by Dhirendra Singh, 2015. There are DPP 2020 has been issued. Some factors have been taken. Some goal has been met. 47 amendment has been done, but still a lot of thing has been to be done. Jointness, synergy has to build up again among all the stakeholders. Please understand. And unless the academia is brought in, nothing is going to happen. The DPSUs has to have to come out and invite the private sector also. They have to trust the private sector. There's a lacking there. That of course DPP 2020 is making that strategic partnership has been introduced, and there are 4. But again, HL is trying to get into. You must have seen how the naval utility helicopter, they want to take this in spite of having 60,000 crores order. Still, this is the and very important thing. There should be a defense capital budget which is non-lapsable. Then only things can move fast. Public-private partnership needs to be, PPP model needs to be encouraged. MSME has to be given more impetus, which is being given by the DPP 2020 is addressing all this thing. And there is very good innovation for defense excellence. IDEX is there. A lot of new things have been introduced. Still, lot to go. And unless this is the main important thing, the whole acquisition thing is made autonomous and not under the MOD. It has to be made by professional. If something has to be bought, it has to be bought. Who knows better than the businessman? Merchant of Chamber of Commerce should be given. Viniji should be given. The person who knows the business should be given, not the MOD. Please understand. And this again, I am quoting Defense Acquisition, Mohan Kumar. Again, this Dhirendra Singh committee report of 2015 given to Government of India. So these, I'm quoting them. This is the fact. You have to take out from them. Autonomy is to be given. Then not the acquisition, because the market is very huge. Just I will tell you the market, last line, to achieve the turnover 1,75,000 crores. We have to get onto this, because what is happening is, this is our aim. In order to enhance procurement from domestic industry, we have to, from current 70,000 crore, 1,40,000 crore we are looking in 2025. This is the huge market. MSME has been given impetus. Lot of thing is there, but unless people handhold and take them along, it is not possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Air Vice Marshal Pranay Sinha ji. It has been very nicely been explained that India, which has got second largest armed forces in the world. See the opportunity. We have the 5th largest budget for armed forces in the world. The opportunity which he will explain, and the Atma Nirbhar Bharat call, which has been given by our beloved Prime Minister, gives all our entrepreneurs not only to make India self-reliance in this defense production, but also business opportunity. It will serve win-win for all. The very nicely been explained. The draft defense procurement policy 2020, which has come up, DPP, which has been come up, which was unveiled by the Honorable Raksha Mantri, Shri Rajnath ji, and the present finance minister has announced the measures, various measures, slews of measures which will help us. One of the major which you highlighted, sir, and which we all should take advantages is, the change in the FDI regulation. The foreign direct investment, which earlier was 49%, but now the automatic approval, which is 74%, which will give a lot of opportunity for not only making indigenous weapons systems, but other things. That gives a requirement that this is the requirement. See what you, Air Vice Marshal Sinha has done is, he has shared his will to buy, his will for requirement. He says, "मुझे चाहिए है, आप दीजिए." Now let us go to the academia and let us ask them whether they are prepared. The person who was in charge of the innovations, who was supposed to inculcate the value of innovation in the Indian student, in the Indian youth, in the Indian tomorrow. I am very proud that we also have Dr. Unnat Pandit with us, who was project director in the Atal Innovation Mission. He has been associated with various programs of the government. Dr. Unnat, I would request you to come in. Now it is 4:27. We will have 7 minutes for you. As usual, I will at 5 minutes. Give me a liberty to tap you. You should not feel interjected. So at 16:33, I will try to interject so that you will have your final comments. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Vinitji. Hope I am audible and video is also clear.
Of course. Very nice, sir. And you look brilliant today.
Yeah, thank you. See, what Honorable Speaker has just mentioned, that India was always be in need of a latest technology, but we were always relying on the imports. And this has been the culture throughout the many decades was being followed. That's really a critical aspect, that where the country's security is being taken care through huge sum of budget. And of course, we were in need of a technology and know-how which can put us in a much advanced forefront. That was the need as always, but gradually the importance for indigenization was never been taken. And that's starting from the independence, so many prime ministers came, and then they have mostly relied on the warfare equipments and accessories on import. Now, this is something which has really defense DIPP 2020. That is something which has really opened up the new opportunities for the upcoming startups, technology developer in country. We were always utilizing our knowledge, but knowledge in the defense sector which can benefit to our forces, which can establish our improved processes, technological advancement. We put best practices on the front and definitely achieving the improvement on the indigenization of the technology. This is something which is a grossly being envisaged through the IDEX initiative and the defense procurement policy which has just recently been taken. Now, the IDEX initiative is not just a 2018 launch when it was really introduced. It's a long thought process. Immediately after 2014, gradually the innovation ecosystem country was trying to build. We wanted all the innovation technology should be developed and indigenized, which affects the societal relevance. And that's how the Atal Innovation Mission has taken a shape. And gradually, as soon as the Atal Innovation Mission got a little bit crawling, they have started in the country. Immediately, the concept of indigenizing the innovation for defense excellence has taken a shape. And I'm really feeling proud of a part of designing entire strategy to conceptualize this particular program on behalf of Atal Innovation Mission in my previous association. This is something, a program which really takes care of technologies which are taking a shape into the lab. But in many earlier times also, there were so many scientists which were really taking a pain of developing the new and innovative defense related technology and innovation. But mostly it was surrounded into the DRDO or any other defense related lab networks only. Now this entire domain has been opened for the youth and the aspiring innovators. These aspiring innovators can really connect themselves into the Innovation for Defense Excellence initiative. And this initiative is really taking a shape in a time-bound manner. This is the third series of innovation challenges which has been launched under the Innovation for Defense Excellence. And all the three series are a time-bound wherein applications are thoroughly reviewed by involvement of various forces, the official Minister of Defense staff, and other ecosystem players. This is something the beauty of entire initiative, that how government is serious on indigenizing the technology. And if I refer to few technology, then we are almost trying to establish ourselves as a cutting edge technology provider, whether it's a laser weaponry or a remote piloted airborne vehicle, unmanned surface to underwater vehicle, wherein one of the startup has really brought a cutting edge technology, wherein the vehicle can really monitor or track even below few feet down the sea what is happening over the surface. This is something which is going to really put us on a war front, and then that is something which will really help country in gaining the front lead position into the defense sector. Similarly, there are many such challenges. Illegal use of drone is again going to be a much worrying development which is happening. Or radar IQ signaling generator. This is something which is cutting edge. And
so in continuation of our time.
Many researchers are taking active participation into this kind of innovation challenges. Government is not only helping them in defining the quality specification and the technology know-how from the lab to the pilot, but pilot to the commercial front, hand-holding support through the established incubation center. There are a few incubation center which is SIGN in Mumbai, IIT Madras, and also the Forge Incubation Center. All these incubation centers are really supporting the innovation to convert from the lab to the on a front for a pilot testing. And post pilot testing, the entire IDEX initiative is taking all those initiatives to taken up with the DPSUs to commercially manufacture and explore for supply to the forces. This is something
Dr. Unath,
wonderful.
I'll be coming back to everybody.
I'm sure India will have a cutting edge innovation and technology in a front to support the indigenized defense innovation. Over to you, Vinitji.
So today, Rajiv ji and his team, they have put me in a tight spot where I have to interject because of the time. And I'm sure the speakers are going to forgive me for this, because all of them know me personally, and I don't feel that they will feel pinched about this. This is very nicely been put by Dr. Unath. We as Indians, we always felt pinched when we saw that as India, we never filed more than 2,000 IPRs or patents in a year. Whereas a country of the size of Japan files more than 50,000 patents. And we are moving from an economy which was mechanical to electronic. In the fourth generation industrial revolution, we are moving towards knowledge economy, where patents, IPRs will be value and they will be businesses. One challenge which I remember, which Raju Podarji was talking to me when we had met few months back in a sideline of a roundtable, is that businesses are ready to innovate. They're ready to invest money in innovation and research and R&D. But talent kahan hai? Where is the educated youth which is coming up. And I get an assurance from you, Dr. Unnat, that now the culture has changed from becoming one of the engineers to serve in the factory. The Atal Innovation Mission, or maybe the other initiatives of the government, will convert this engineer who wants to serve to an engineer who would do research in R&Ds of this and where the business wants it. And one more good part which we could see is we have that culture which is coming up, and various companies have done it. I also see one of the panelists who is there, who talks about satellites, who has been part of the nano satellite. I'm fortunate that my book was forwarded by Kiran Kumar, who was former chairman of ISRO. And while writing this book and interacting with him, I understood one part, that when that 104 satellites were going up there in the orbit, nano satellite, which was put by the students of Pune, played a major role, because that gave a mission that 3 generations of scientists were working together. Kiran Kumar ji said, I was working, somebody whom I taught, and somebody was taught by the person whom I was teaching. So 3 generations of scientists, and that comes in. Dr. Unnat, thank you for bringing this in mind. And with this movement from the requirement of defenses, from the assurance of academic, let me move to this young scientist, Sanjay Niketi, to talk about space. Because before it talks, let me tell you 1 minute. My subject is geospatial, and where I understand the importance of space. When I was appointed as to be the board member of the Railways Governing Council in CRIS, we discussed that can we use space for railways, and we have delivered solutions by using space in railways. And now you can locate the locomotive very precisely where it is right now, and that has reduced the capital investments which was done for acquiring more new locomotives. Now there is an optimal utilization, it serves the people. So Sanjay Niketi ji, can you tell us what are the opportunity which comes with the 5th generation technology, the 4th industrial revolution which is coming up? How space will generate more revenue for members of Indian Budget Chamber? How would it help Indian citizens to get more salary, or Indian taxpayers to pay lesser? Or maybe, so in short, productivity कैसे बढ़ेगी और कैसे दिन सुखी होंगे?
Firstly, I would like to thank Indian Chamber of Commerce as well as Million Minds for inviting me to be part of this forum. It's an honor to speak with all of you. Thanks a lot, Mr. Vineet. I think you've asked really interesting questions. So this is going to be the framework in which I would like to answer it. I think Mr. Pranay had brought in 4 M's, which I believe are very, very important. I'm going to address the 4 M's towards the end of the 6th minute. So to start with, I'll tell you a little bit about the motivation as to why I started the company. I started building satellites when I was still in college. So, when I was in my 3rd year of engineering, there were ISRO scientists who came to our university and said, you as students can build satellites, right? We've gone a long way from there. So we built India's first student nano satellite. But the main motivation for me to start the company was, we are 1 billion people, but have you heard about any single private company which has built space tech solutions for the world? We're all, proud of what ISRO has achieved, right? ISRO has achieved some enormous, missions like sending missions to Moon, sending mission to Mars. PSLV is the Indian workhorse. It has a world record for launching 104 satellites. So ISRO over a period of time has built an ecosystem of small and medium scale industries that have been supporting the Indian space program. So there are already 300 to 400 small and medium scale companies that work in the space sector. And space, when you say space, there's already a component of aerospace, space and defense. So most of these companies have that products that can be repurposed or can be used for defense applications as well as space applications. But what is missing is a framework that would allow most of these companies to experiment and showcase their capabilities. right? I'm sure when you talk about satellites, you would imagine that the satellites are the size of an SUV, right? But today we are talking about satellites which fit in your hand, right? So today you can launch about uh, so we spoke about 100 satellites being launched in a single launch, but how many of them are built by Indian private companies? I mean, even the dispenser that puts the satellite in space is not made was not made in India. It was from a European or an American company. But do you think there is no capacity in India to do it? I will bet you that there will be at least 30 to 50 companies in India that could actually do something like that. But that is what brings me towards talking about the 4 Ms in more detail, right? The mission mode, the removing mistrust, management issues, and motivation. So let me start with motivation. Is there motivation for people in India to build cutting edge tech? Of course, there is. I mean, you have two companies in India that are talking about building their own rockets that can put satellites into orbit, right? There are at least 7 to 8 companies that are talking about building their own satellites and offering new types of services. There are at least 10 new startups that are talking about geospatial data analytics so that they can impact different segments, right? From insurance segment to maritime surveillance to banking and hedge funds, right? But so there is motivation. Uh, Management issue, yes, management issue is coming from the policymakers, right? I went through the new policy that the defense guys are coming up. We are of course very excited to know about in space, right? Of course, so the government is taking the necessary steps to do it. But guys, you cannot expect people to wait for 7 years for changes to come in terms of policy. I understand that it takes time, but if these changes don't happen faster, then the motivation factor of companies will die down. So it is very important that the steps being taken, which are very interesting, needs to be much more focused. For example, I mean, you talk about grants which give you like 10 lakh rupees for a startup. I mean, honestly, 10 lakh rupees is probably monthly burn of a startup. How much can a company achieve with that 10 lakh rupees? So if you look at the budget of, so NASA has carved out $50 million as a budget to support small SMEs. So that $50 million this year was spent across 232 companies. I'm sure in India, it is not very difficult to carve out 50 crores to support startups, at least in the space sector. Similarly, on the defense sector, when we talk about the 5th largest defense spend in the world, there I'm sure 100 or 200 crore budgets for startups is will go a long way. So that addresses the management issue. Second is on the third one is on the mistrust. Right. So sometimes, people who've taken like 20 years, 30 years to get to a phase have a framework in mind. They'll be like, I took 30 years to get here. I'm pretty sure nobody can get here in 1 year. Right. So that is where this mistrust comes from, where possibly a lot of organizations, also from an MSME standpoint, and also from, various
the
government.
5 minutes reminder to you.
Sure. The government departments would also think like, hey, I'm sure you cannot probably do it, but unless you give them that, unless that mistrust is removed and a helping hand is given, it is not going to work. And I'm very, very happy to say that at least from an ISRO side, they have been very supportive, very proactive. I'm very excited on the new frameworks that they're bringing into place. But again, you know, I just wish that all these things really happen, and they happen in a specific timeline. We can't wait for 7 years for these things to happen. Then comes the mission mode. So if you have the last three fixed, everybody is working on mission mode. So those are my views on your question.
So thank you, Sanjay ji, and it is very exciting. As I said, you know, these all panelists, they come from such a beautiful background and their learning, which helps us to understand many things. One of the things which you talked about, Sanjay ji, is the opportunity which has been provided by ISRO. And when I was interacting with Kiran Kumar and other people in ISRO, Hyderabad center of theirs downloads the raw data which comes from all the sats, and which has been kept in. Young scientists, young entrepreneurs, young innovators, they have access to their data. They can go there and access. And naturally, the data cannot travel outside the box of the ISRO there, because it has got a lot of value. But you can do experiments, and the experiment comes, then there are joint ownership, there are joint experiments, and this can be termed. This was never before in India, or neither I know about any other country where the government provides this kind of thing. And this beautifully been highlighted by you will give an opportunity to all the businessmen. What was lacking here was money to be pumped in by businesses, because they were not knowing this. But probably this series of discussion which has been done by IMC, Million Minds, and people like you who come in guide and also educate the entrepreneurs who are here, that will give them some opportunity. One discussion I'll tell you, IMC is in Mumbai, which is only 300 meters away from the coast of Mumbai, and they see a lot of fishing. ISRO has developed a GUI which need not be read, or you don't have to write anything. It's a, what do you say, figure-based object which is being kept on the small donkeys or the boats of the fishermen, and they know where there is a large catch of fish, where there are rocks, which point they have to avoid, what is the shortest route to their home back. And this helps the not literate, not tech savvy fishermen to do this. And this has been done by some young engineers and young entrepreneurs like you, Sanjay ji, who give this opportunity. And you see the harvest has gone up on the coastal lines. The cost has come down. The productivity has really gone up. We also have Vidushi Bhattacharya ji. She, as introduced earlier, she's ex-NASA. She's astropreneur. It's a new word where, people who work in the space and also are entrepreneur. She's here. She has got international experience. Can I request Vidushi ji to take in? Vidushi ji, we are allowing 5 minutes. Then I remind the speaker, and then in 2 minutes, the speaker is supposed to close their conversation. Vidushi ji.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I actually wanted to go a little bit into why space is interesting and important. Am I able to share my slides, or should I just speak through it on points without the slides?
Share your slides also. At
okay, let me do
16:55, I'll remind you of the 5 minutes, and then you can take 2-3 minutes additional after that.
Okay, fantastic. Let me do this right now then. You guys see my screen here?
Yes.
It should say, why should you be interested in space? All right, so the basic idea here is, space is exciting, space is cool, and I've been working in the space sector for 30 years now. My background, just in terms of a connection to India, is that my parents left India shortly after partition, and my dad, in fact, was a scientist, and we lived in Europe and then eventually moved to the US. And being in the US, I was fortunately exposed to NASA from a very early age. And we've now moved from a time where space is just an exciting proof of technology kind of a realm to where we have consumer-based technology. We have consumer-based services that rely very heavily on space. Your mobile phone is a perfect example of this, because your phone connects to satellites hundreds, if not thousands of times a day. So since we're already dependent on space technology, let's think about how it can help us, particularly in the post-COVID world. So space provides a unique vantage point, right? There are certain things you can do from outer space that you cannot do here on planet Earth. The biggest example of that is you can observe large swaths of the Earth from satellites. You could not observe such large areas from even airplanes or drones. You can also look at space in the longer term in terms of abundant resources. You can go mine asteroids. Down the road we will be doing this. We'll be looking at mining without environmental impact. You can also use microgravity as a way to develop pharmaceuticals. And this actually has quite a bit of relevance now to the COVID era. Because you don't have the pull of gravity, there are ways to develop proteins, large proteins that in fact you cannot develop here on Earth because gravity would break them down. But more importantly, I think we should be interested in space for the post-COVID-19 global economy, because we can get data for food security. If you think about just your basic ability to buy food in the last few months, I know I personally have gone to the store a number of times and just not been able to find basic things like flour, not because there's an insufficient amount grown, but because there's a real issue with supply chains getting the food from the farmer onto the truck, onto the store. And so you will literally go to a store and find an entire section that's empty. And depending on where you are in the world, this problem can be larger or smaller, but I've actually had to wait quite a while to get what I consider to be very basic supplies. And then the other thing that I think is really interesting is we're reading stories about the environmental impact of human activity, and how now that we are, we have less air pollution, and we have a number of other things that we just are noticing that we didn't have before as issues. You can look at data from space, and you can look for areas of pollution today versus earlier, and you can use that to really figure out what the environmental impact in specific areas is. And that helps you to determine, and in terms of industrial development, where do we want to change what we've been doing versus what we're doing now. Everybody knows the area is much cleaner now. I've certainly noticed that here. And all of these wonderful things we're talking about that can be done cannot take place without workforce development. And that is really my key area of focus in my startup, because I see all the wonderful things you can do from space, and I see that space is now a part of the national identity in India, which I think is fantastic. You've taken it from just a very elite technical realm into something that everybody really is interested in and engaged in, and I think that's tremendously important. But the question here is, where is the workforce? Why don't we have more people going into the sector? There are regulatory issues here. There are some financial issues. We've had some of this stuff touched on by the earlier speaker. But specifically, I think we need to take people, not just young people, but people who already have expertise in the workforce, and have them reconsider their talents in the context of space. They only need to come up to speed, I think, to a small degree to have a general understanding of space. Not everybody who works in the space sector has to have an engineering degree. And in fact, I in my startup really rely heavily on non-engineers as well, people who work in the media, for example, or people who are very good at handling business. They don't need to know engineering in detail, but they do need to know how the sector works, and we need them very desperately in our sector. So let me give you just some quick examples to go over these points here. When we talk about food security, there's not only the issue of getting your food from point A to point B. What you also want to do is look at crop readiness and health. And a very helpful way to do that is using satellite imagery. Here you have some tracts of farms, and we now have detectors on satellites where we can look at disease, we can look at crop readiness, and this can help us understand not only where should we pick crops, how should we modify our agricultural technologies, but we can actually have a farmer who's in a rural area who has a mobile phone who can receive this data and then use it to understand when their crops will be ready, so they can book themselves a shipment supply, to get themselves a truck for, say, 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the road, and they will in fact know that the crop will be ready by then because we have satellite data to provide them as such. As it currently stands, 40% of agricultural crops waste before they get to market, and that is a huge waste. So satellite data can very definitely help with that, particularly in the post-COVID economy. You were talking earlier about ships, right? And with maritime and with trains, you can also see where your commodities are in the natural flow of things. And of course, with natural disasters, we've have all these storms coming up right now in the US, so the hurricanes and such. You can identify sources of fires early on. You can look at hurricanes. You can identify where earthquake victims are. And in fact, in Nepal, this was done a few years ago with that earthquake, where they were able to use satellite imagery to identify areas where people had completely been cut off, and they were able to drop emergency medical supplies by airplane once satellite imagery had identified these villages. Now, construction and urban development, I think, are another really important era where we can use satellite data for development. I can think of an example right now in New Zealand where there were some indigenous people who had some crops that who had an area that they laid claim to where they believed that there was construction. And so they actually used satellite imagery to look at exactly where a developer was putting in some kind of new housing and businesses, to challenge the local government to say, hey, this is our land, here's some satellite imagery from before and after. You can see clearly that this is our land and this development should not be happening. And in fact, you can not only look at encroachment, you can assess environmental threats, you can look at what's going on in terms of water supply, in terms of pollution, and just in terms of where is the best place to put a new development so that you can access the local infrastructure with the minimum level of impact.
Yeah.
And then finally, I think
as I'm bonded to remind you about the 5 minutes, next 2 more minutes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Yes, so the most important thing here to remember is in the future, very quickly, we're going to get to a realm of satellite-based internet. And what that actually means is people who live in remote areas will be able to access satellites from their own mobile devices, which means that the farmers will be able to access crop information. Anybody who's sort of doing citizen science, like in a remote area where they see a fire that's starting, can go ahead and relay that information to authorities because they have satellite phones. Same for construction. So let me just ask you to have a look at this very quickly. This is a list of global startups. As of just a few weeks ago, there's a database called newspacehub.co that you can look at. Look at what's going on here. In India, we have a much smaller number. Now, relative to the number of the population in India, I don't want to see this happen. I want to see more of you young people getting into the space sector in particular, startups in general. I think we need to change this where we have 1,780 startups globally right now in the space sector, and only a handful of those are here in India at the moment. So finally, the last slide I want to put up here is if your expertise is in any of these areas here, business, media, legal, finance, medicine, social services, or engineering, I think you really need to look at training and education just to get your feet wet, just to become familiar with the space sector, what's involved, what's happening, and what can I do? I want you to think about what you can specifically do to help us grow the sector even faster. There are studies that show that we're going to be facing a $3 trillion space economy by the year 2040. That's only in 20 years. And those of you who are in your 20s right now, you will be at the peak of your careers, at your peak professionally in 20 years. And I do really want you to think about how you can get involved, whether your degree is in engineering or not. So I'll just leave it there.
Thank you. It was a beautiful presentation. And as Elon Musk took the steps there in US, I'm hopeful that the next generation takes a leapfrog and we cover the gap which is there very soon. And your words have been very, very encouraging. There have been a very nice conversation by all the speakers who were there. And if you ask me honestly, at the midway of this discussion, I feel I'm already enriched. And had this been done 10 years back, I would have contributed more to the society than what I could participate. There are some questions which have come. One of the question is about how municipalities can help defense or can change this thing. And I'm tempted to answer 2, 3 of my experiences. So I'm not telling you what can be done. I'm talking about what can be done. So 2 years back, there was this Ardha Kumbh in Prayagraj, which was erstwhile called as Allahabad. We all know that every 12 years there is to be Kumbh Mela, congregations of millions of people who believe in this faith. And you would always hear after the Kumbh Mela thousands of deaths because of stampede, because of people falling in some pothole, things been going wrong. And this year, the number of people who attended was 7 times more than the highest number ever in the known history of human being. And not a single accident been reported. What was the reason? The reason was the municipality there, along with the authorities there, the organization which was looking after that particular took help of various sector. One was space and also this thing. They mapped it, geospatial mapping was done every inch of that area. The land which was not so conducive for human habitation was marked, it was closed for entries. The area were marked where there will not be any water retentions. They could identify that. Mapping was done. Drones were used to do surveillance and also other technologies. I can go on and give an hour lecture how the local municipality collaborated with ISRO and other organizations to make sure that the life is very good. Another example is in Haridwar, in a regular ghat, the commissioner there chose to tie up with a young entrepreneur from Mumbai and Ahmedabad, and they used a new technology, which was now it is common, but a few years back it was latest, and which was Li-Fi, the Wi-Fi through electrical bulbs, which was not to be invested much, and it's up. So municipalities, if they open up, they can also create SEZs, special economical zones, where people can come together. They can boost either education, or they can boost the economy by giving conducive environment for production of defense, and which we have seen how Pimpri Chinchwad has done in Mumbai or any other organization. So we will go forward. There are many questions which are coming up to our mind. Sir, while there are questions which will come up, I have a few questions, and if I can ask one question to Dr. Bhattacharya. Space tech is a very high risk sector, sir. Madam, the precision level is high, the expertise is high. What do you think at the education level, especially the elementary education, the secondary education system, and at the entrepreneurship level, is to be done so that India competes with globe, and also leap jumps, covers that gap which you mentioned in your last slide, which pains me when I see that as an policymaker, this thing. And tomorrow you tell the world, look at India, you have to follow and grab them. What we have to do, 3 points which you think, ma'am, if you can do it in 2 minutes, then I'll ask 2 more questions which have come to me.
Okay, so I think the most valuable asset of any company, of any organization, any nation is the human capital, the human workforce. So you're talking about at an elementary school level and at the school age, I think just a general exposure to space, not just in terms of facts and technology, but in terms of application is really critical. Again, those children are young, they are already inspired. What we really want to do is have them look at the relevance of space, have them start to look at it not as an area where only the elite work, but I really want them to start thinking about it as a tangible sector. And that involves getting people in who are already working in the sector to serve as inspiration, and to get these kids to start looking at how can you work in marketing or in media communications, and what can you possibly do in those areas to specifically get yourself involved in the space sector. So this, I'm glad you're talking about this starting at an early age, because I think that's really critical. Their minds are open and their career paths in front of them are open. And the other thing I think you really have to do, particularly in a culture where family is so important, is to get the parents on board, to get them to believe, yes, if my child studies something related to space, someday they will be able to get a job, so I will support their decision or their interest to get into the space sector. So not only do you have to get the kids exposed to the sector itself, you actually have to get the families involved and get them to believe.
Nicely the perspective which was there. There have been many questions for AVM, Sena. Naturally, soldiers are always respected, and when they're amongst us, they get the limelight, and there is nothing new in that. Sir, other day I had an opportunity to interact with people there who are decision maker in the space side or the defense side, and private sector is seen as to be a key contributor to it. There may be, even if you talk about missile, you talk about a launch vehicle, you talk about a spacecraft or a flying machine, or you talk about the systems which are there in the flying birds which are there, need not be developed by HAL, DRDO or BL within the premises by them, but it can be done with public-private partnership. There can be innovators like Sanjay who can come on board. There can be entrepreneurs like Raju Podarji and his team which is there who can come in investment. Can there be PPP? Is there anything about a plan which is there about PPP in technology side? This question has been asked by many. Uma Sudendran also asked this question, and I thought you will be the appropriate person to guide us on opportunities available to Indian entrepreneurs.
Yes, Vinayji, this is a thing which, see, in DPP 2020, it has been very clearly laid out. Earlier also, in DPP 2016 also, strategic partnership was added. And in strategic partnership, there were 4 segments were defined. One was aircraft, one was helicopter, one was armored vehicle, and for each segment, one strategic partner from the industries where will be given the chance to build up the whole thing. This is there as far as the strategic partner. But 2020, if you see, there are more than that also is given. There is something called Make 3 for indigenously manufactured for import substitution. So there also people can go and apply. And the best thing is those who are interested, please on the defense website, the MOD website, they can go and please see the DPP 2020. It clearly lays down, there are a lot of scopes are there. to go in the for this developmental partnership is there. Plus, if you are having a good MSME, then also for the MSME also there is a scheme for this make to prototype developmental phase where people will invest in less than 50 crore based on delivery schedule. It is there. Government will give you 3 crore rupees. So all these are there. There are schemes, and we should go. At the same time, what we also should demand from, in fact, what Mr. Pandit also mentioned, the IDEX, that is a very good initiative taken by the government of India, where the BEL and HL, they have combined and formed something called Defense DIO, Defense Initiative Organization. And there also, all those have got innovative ideas, they can go and they can make the startup run. And there are a lot of opportunity for the startup. Please refer all this on the websites, and excellent opportunities are there.
Naturally, entrepreneurs or the business cannot produce anything, and you cannot consume anything till it is been done by talent which is there, and talent cannot be groomed in one day, but it has to be brought to that level over the period. And Government of India has done several things in the last couple of years, and one of the pride thing which I see is that Atal Innovation Mission, and Dr.
Yes.
Unnat, you were associated with that. Do you think the nation has that kind of appetite? You know, it also requires that kind of appetite. I had an opportunity to go to one of the European nation, a very small country. There I could see children of 3 years of age playing tennis to somebody who is 70 years old. So when I used to walk on the road, so cycle on the road, I would see everybody playing tennis, and that's the appetite of that country. That sportsmen come out of that particular country a lot. Can we have a dream about this kind of appetite where schools are provided certain things? Somebody has mentioned that we don't even have telescopes in the school, and once we provide a telescope, there can be some kind of curiosity in the mind of the student. He would like to search the stars, differentiation. What is the differentiation between stars and planet? He would like to understand what is Mars, what is Venus, what can be seen with naked eye, what cannot be seen, and that would create some kind of inquisitive curiosity, and that curiosity can lead to become a researcher. Dr. Unnat, how many colleges or schools you have partnered as Atal Innovation Lab? How much money has been pumped by Government of India? What can be done by businesses where they don't do this as to be a part of donation? I hate the word called as donation, where the business have to donate and forget it. What can be done by the businesses as partnership, where they invest money in the school, college, or the lab of the university, and make sure that they get talent after a few years, which in turn returns back that money by way of creating IPRs for that organization. Do you have these kind of things in your mind, and did you experience that, or you can forecast that? Dr. Unnat?
The Atal Innovation Mission has really taken up a huge step to build the entire innovation ecosystem in the country. So in 2014, in a budgeted year, it was announced 2016, first school has got the tinkering lab, and we are into 2020. Till today, more than 5,700 Atal tinkering labs are established in the country, which is expanded all across more than 93% district of our country, and single scheme which has reached to that level, and entire new generation is getting equipped with the futuristic technology platform. And we should not surprise that there are startups which are getting established at the age of say as a 10, 12, 15, 14 years. And three girl child in Pune have established their own startup. And that's
Very nice.
That's the
So
which we are foreseeing. And
so I had promised myself and the audience that we will finish in time, and I am happy that all our speakers could speak. We could take a couple of questions also. I had promised Rajiv Podarji that at 17:10, that is 10 past 5 o'clock in the evening, I will request him to come and thank formally the speakers who have come, thank the audience. If Rajiv Podarji, President IMC, can come on behalf of all the organizers, Million Mind, CKS, everybody, and thank all of us. And if there are any other questions, I would request participants to keep writing it. The coordinator from IMC will make sure that the questions travel to the relevant person. Answers are come up in the next series. The answers will be given by the IMC representative. Rajiv ji, if you can take over from me.
Thank you so much, Vinitji. Thank you. Excellent session. So well moderated and so well our speakers, such eminent panelists. It was an education for me because space is absolutely something new to me, and the opportunity it opens, it was really worth learning. And you know, the right from the beginning, what are the hurdles we are facing, all the 4 M's which were mentioned, and the huge opportunities. Even this Atal lab is something actually, innovation centers is something, you know, which we are also exploring in Navalgarh, just for your information. And we think that's a superb initiative taken by the government, and it will go a long way in promoting interest and entrepreneurship in this particular space. So I'm not an expert on this, but I can just say that it was an eye-opener. I'm sure our audience also enjoyed it, and there'll be more and more interest coming in this sector. With this, I'd like to thank everybody. A very, very special thanks to our partners and with us in this, in Million Minds and Center of Knowledge Sovereignty. And a very, very big round of applause to everybody. I'm sorry we have to do it virtually, but that's the way it is. And thank you, Vinitji, and thank you, everybody. Namaskar.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all for that wonderfully knowledgeable session. It was a very excellent session wherein a lot of knowledge has been gained, and for all the questions, the Secretariat would be sending it to the speakers and accordingly giving you the answers post receiving the same. As we come to the end of the session, may I request Mr. Ajit Mangrulkar, Director General, to please present the vote of thanks. Over to you, Mr. Mangrulkar.
Thank you very much, Selby, and a formal vote of thanks from IMC. I think this was an absolutely fascinating session. Defense and space, Vinitji, absolutely brilliant. So I thank Million Minds and Center of Knowledge for Sovereignty. I mean, this was something a first for us, and it's I'm glad to say that it's a first in the series of 6. So it's going to be brilliant. I would like to thank Air Vice Marshal Sinha, retired VSM. I think, sir, you are just brilliant. Having you on the panel was simply fantastic. I would like to thank Dr. Bidushi Bhattacharya. I think space, you really made it very fascinating, ma'am, for all of us. I think I wish I was probably a kid right now and go to my school and say, look, I want a telescope. So you really, you know, charged us in this area. And Professor Unnat Pandit, what you told us as far as the Atal Innovation Mission, I think it's fantastic. From 1 in 2014 to 5,700 Atal Tinkering Labs. I am sure, I think in India's DNA, the young generation is going to lead the startup and probably will take over the world in this respect. And I think when there are right space to do that. And Mr. Sanjay Shrikant, I think you are just simply fascinating. I mean, I couldn't I think that information on ISRO in Hyderabad allowing data access to young minds is something we didn't even know of. So it's simply fantastic. And Vinit ji, you are brilliant as usual. I mean, it's been fascinating for IMC to be involved with you. And I consider it it's a super value add. We started off with release of book on data sovereignty, and I think we are continuing in this fashion. So thank you so much on behalf of IMC. Of course, I would also like to thank our entire team that put this behind, Deputy Director General Mr. Ghosh, and the entire team at the back end that did all of this, Selby from our IT. So, you know, doing it virtually is a challenge in itself, and to do it in a non-personal environment is difficult, but we are still managing, and probably is a new normal. So thank you so much, everyone. And may I remind everyone that next week, same time, please stay glued. We are coming up with another one in the series. and look out on social media for what it is all about. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Mangalorkar.
You.
Thank you, friends,
Thank you.
speakers, participants, for your kind cooperation, support, and active participation. Thank you very, very much. And do stay with us on next Friday, same time for the next session. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.